Hi guys, Maikeru here. This is my video on elite dungeons and farming the mini bosses and mobs in here for insane experience. This is over 5 mil GP an hour and up to about 8 or 9 if you do it super efficiently. It's also very fast dungeoneering tokens, anywhere between 100 to 175,000 an hour. The combat experience an hour is incredible too. You can get over 1.5 million combat experience an hour when using chins with range. So let's get right into it. So to the south of Aminishi, you can talk to Ling and get a contract from them, and it's a Slayer contract you can complete while inside the actual elite dungeon. It can give anywhere up to 100, and the more you get, the more points it gives. So you want to re-roll for one chime until you get like close to 100. I just got 93, and it gives 68,000 Slayer XP, some Slayer points, some chimes. You do that while inside the dungeon while farming, and you get Slayer XP at the same time. Quickly taking a look at my setup before we get into the video. I have augmented Pernix, I have a ceramic helm, I have a god book for its stats. Then we use an amulet of souls, nightmare gauntlets, Pernix boots, a luck of the dwarves, mechanical chin chompers, and an offhand ascension crossbow. Diamond bolts are really nice here. Their proc just makes it so you hit quite hard, but it doesn't take away your HP like Ruby. So when using chins, Ruby can be a bit detrimental to you, because if it procs on multiple enemies, you're going to hurt yourself a lot. I do use a Ruby Bolt switch for when I get onto the mini bosses though, as it's very helpful there when you're single targeting those or killing like 2 mini bosses. That's it for the Worn inventory setup. It's pretty self-explanatory. Take the best gear you have and take mechanical chin chompers for the most experience an hour. If you're using mage, you're going to get a lot less experience, but it's still very good. And if you're free man, having 1 mage and 2 rangers is actually pretty decent. So if you were opting to take mage, just take your best mage gear and do as much AoE as possible. Right, so now into the method. I had to change my interface slightly to do this effectively. I made my minimap really large so then I could see any mini bosses in the dungeon before we actually entered. Otherwise you'd have to clear stuff, and sometimes there isn't any mini bosses at all. As you can see here, there was 1 mini boss available, so we could go kill that one and we didn't have to worry about teleporting out. But in this one, there was no mini bosses at all. Because there was absolutely 0 mini bosses, there was no point in me killing any of these mobs, and I could just teleport out and redo it and try again. Just remember, when you enter again, make sure you say you don't want to continue where you left off and you want to start a new instance every single time. So if you're doing duo or trio, you want to kill as many bosses as possible, which means you want to lure them all together. This means that if there's a mini boss off to the north or to the east, have one person go grab that one and have the others go and clear the way for the next ones or whatever you need to do. Some of the mini bosses can be hidden behind barriers like the chef. Once you kill the 3 things in front of the barrier, it opens it up. The same with the church little bit. There's 2 things in front of that barrier that you have to kill to go through there. Mini bosses can spawn in these places as well. So it's really useful to have people go off and collect the other mini-bosses or group up other mobs while you clear the way to this mini-boss. So as you can see, once you hide around the corner, they all group up really well and you can all come out and AoE them down very, very quickly with chins. Then once all of the normal mobs are dead, you can just focus on the elite ones. If you have like 2 or 3 mini-bosses, just continue to chin them down and do as much damage as possible, and you can get really quick kills on those mini-bosses. Instead of killing them one by one, you might as well lure everything together and just get maximum experience gains. In duo and trio, it's not too bad either because you share a lot of the damage that's thrown at you. In solo, when you're grouping them all up, it can be a bit more dangerous though. So what you want to do is you want to line of sight all of the mobs in different places in the arena. As you can see, when we went into this chapel, we would line of sight them across this pillar, which means they can't attack us unless they started coming round. This would then group them all up in a nice big bunch so that you can then leave that little safe spot and chin them down nice and quickly. Just remember, when you do leave the safe spot, they'll attack you, and a lot of them are mage or range, so they will hit quite hard quite quickly. If you do need to run back to the safe spot to eat up, feel free to do that, then come back out and keep AoEing them down. Then once it's just left down to the mini boss or 2, you can nuke those down, either single target if it's only 1, or continue to use your chins if it's like 2, 3 or 4 of them. When you get really lucky and there's like 4 mini bosses in the room, you can chin those 4 mini bosses down and get a lot of dungeoneering tokens very easily. As you can see here, I had 4 mini bosses on me and I would just AoE the middle one and it would kill them all. It's so satisfying being able to kill the mini-bosses so easily, and you can soul split because you're dealing so much damage with your AoE. Obviously, it's a little bit different in solo. You have to group up all of the mobs yourself, so it takes a bit more time. I think this is the reason why you get less experience, because you can't have like your teammate go off and grab one mini-boss from one side and you grab the one from the other. Solo, you need to grab every single mini-boss yourself. And not only that, once you've got them all grouped up, if you leave a save spot, you get hit so hard so quickly because you're not sharing the damage with other people. This means you're going to chug a lot of food during this time. Soul Split does help a huge amount and it does heal you a lot, but when you're getting dealt damage by like 15 mobs at times, it's very, very hard to out Soul Split and you need to chug a lot of food. And then obviously because you're chugging food, you're doing less thresholds and it's a bit harder to lure them and eat and just focus on everything at once. I think this is why solo XP rates are just a little bit worse than duo and trio. So if you were going to do this, I'd advise to go duo or trio with some friends, but solo is still a viable option, and I'll go into the XP rates in just a second. The GP rates I show in this video is going by multiple different chests and given an average of those. Although I did manage to get a Steadfast Scowl solo, but things like the Steadfast Scowl from a Lucky Charm is so rare, and it was my first one I've ever had, so I'm not going to count that towards how much money I made. Although it is possible to get things like this which will increase your GP an hour. So this is really good to take into consideration. I may say it's like 7 to 9 mil GP an hour or something, but you can always get things like a Steadfast Scowl to bump the price up. I insta-sold it on the GE for 5.8 mil, so that's a lot of extra money that you can get here and there when you get lucky. Taking a look at the XP/GP breakdown. I made a little table below that's comparing hourly rates. As you can see, for experience and GP, solo is by far the worst. And when it comes to XP between duo and trio, it's very close, alongside the GP as well. So in regards to dungeoneering experience, if you're doing this solo, you're going to expect about 80k experience an hour. Duo is 100 to 110k and trio is 110 to 120k experience an hour in dungeoneering. In regards to the dungeoneering tokens you get, remember you can trade these in for dungeoneering XP as well, or lucky charms or anything of the sort. You get 90 to 100k tokens in solo, 150k in duo and 175k in trio. This means trio is by far the best for dungeoneering tokens and dungeoneering XP. Looking over at the range experience using mechanized chin chompers, you get around 1 million experience in solo, 1.5 for duo and 1.4 for trio. I did multiple hours to test it out and it seemed like duo was the best for experience, but trio was very, very close. When it comes to magic experience, because you can't AoE quite as good as you can with chins, it's around 600k solo and 1 mil in duo and trio. When it comes to the gold made, I made 4 to 5 mil on average solo, duo made an average of 7 to 9 mil, and trio made an average of 6 to 8 mil. So what it looks like is if you want to go for dungeoneering experience and tokens, trio is the best. If you wanted to go for combat XP and GP, duo and trio were very, very close, but duo seems slightly better in that regards. Remember, Slayer contracts give additional experience in Slayer as well, so always pick those up outside whenever you finish one. That's it for this video. Hope you did enjoy. Do give it a like if you did enjoy, subscribe if you're new for loads of future content all related to Runescape 3, and until next time, see ya.